Hello everyone. My name is Adlife Muhamba of Hardy the Coach International, and welcome to Hardy the Coach TV, a channel whereby we empower job seekers to get interviews and obviously to get the ultimate thing, which is a job. So thank you very much to our recurring subscribers and to our new subscribers. This is a channel to be, believe you me. Okay, so today we want to talk about something that is very, very important, all right, as a job seeker who has been invited for an interview. A lot of people have been asking me to talk about this thing, all right, and I've said to myself, let me prepare a video to talk about behavioral questions. Yes, you've used our past videos, you have nailed you've got a job, and now you've been invited for an interview. How do you tackle behavioral questions? Right. I know that a lot of people will start to think, okay, there's STAR technique, where we're talking about the situation, task, action, result. Okay, there's a CARL technique, which is CARL, which talks about the context. All right, action, right, result, and learning. Yes, I need to know about those things only so that maybe, when I get asked behavioral question, I'll use that. Yes, it's fine, but there are fundamentals to behavioral questions. Right. So today, I want to talk about how do you handle competency-based interview questions, or how do you handle behavioral interview questions. So competence-based interview questions can be replaced or can be used interchangeably, all right, with the behavioral questions, right? Because competence is their behaviors. So don't get confused when you hear someone talking about behavioral stroke competence-based, okay? So that is what we want to talk about today. So before I get straight to the video, I'll be using my tablet to refer some notes so that I don't miss out any important information. Okay, so let's get straight with it. So number one, why behavioral questions? Why competence-based questions? So what are competencies, for example? So we are saying competencies, these are behaviors, these are knowledge, this is knowledge, and obviously these are skills, all right, that you have, all right, or that you can use to actually manage a certain situation, okay? I don't want to sound very, is someone I'm in class, but that's how it is. So, like I said, I'm going to be referring, so we're saying competence are skills, behaviors, and knowledge you will bring into the role, right? And employers will use open-ended questions to discover real-life scenarios where you demonstrate you use your competence to the best effect. So we are saying these are behaviors, these are knowledge, these are skills that you have, all right? And we are saying we need to know when you've used those behaviors to the best of the effect vis-a-vis the situation that you were involved in. So it is very, very important, all right? Why? Because they normally say, the way that you handle certain situation, right, in the past gauges, all right, or is a measure of what you can do in future, right? So it is very, very important that we ask behavioral questions because we don't want to know if you are in a corner, all right, if you're managing a big project, big expectations, how do you handle it in terms of your behaviors? So it is very, very important that we ask. I know it's a very dreadful situation to a lot of job seekers when you talk about behavioral questions. But what is important is to know that it's part of the interview process, and behavioral questions, they can be a way to shine during an interview. If you know what you're doing, you can shine. You can, be there and actually say, okay, I have arrived. Okay, so don't get worried when you hear about behavioral questions. So One would ask me, to say, hard life, how do I tell that this is a behavioral question? Very, very important. All right. You need to know that this type of question is a behavioral question to start with. So it is very, very important. If you see that a question, all right, is leaning towards you trying to describe a task, you now know that it could be a behavioral question. But if you see here, the question started with, tell us about a time when, all right, describe a task whereby you did this. You now know that this is a behavioral question. And you have to think about this video if you're in the interview, to say, how do I tackle behavioral questions? Very, very important and very, very key. Okay, so we want to talk about how you can answer behavioral questions. I know this is the time that everyone has been waiting for, right, in this video. But it is important that we are not going to be talking about the STAR technique or the COW technique only, but we are talking about the whole method that you can use to tackle behavioral questions. Exciting? Yeah. So, number one, you need to find out the competencies that the employer is looking for, right? So, when you're compiling a job description, there are certain competencies that we expect that a particular candidate or individual has, all right? So, it is very, very important to look at the job description. So break down the job description. I've overemphasized this in, I think, all of my interview preparation videos, that knowing the job description inside out is key. And I've outlined that the way that the job description is written, you'd find that there's an area for core competencies and skills. And we want to understand that, have you been in situations whereby you actually exhibited certain core competencies and skills that are in the job description to actually solve a real life situation or problem, right? So it is very, very important to go to the core competencies and skills section on a job spec and try to predict and understand, all right, the type of competencies that the employer is looking for. Very, very important research about the job description, all right? Have a highlighter with you and try to say, okay, these are the competencies that they're looking for. If it's a project manager role, there are a lot of competencies to do with budget management. So try to think about a situation whereby you manage to save costs, all right? Talk about a time when you manage to deliver a project within time, all right? It is very, very important. That's number one, to study the job description and understand, all right, the type of competencies that the employer is looking for. Right. Number two, identify competent questions examples. Now we are saying real life. All right. What are the examples? What are the type of situations that you have been involved in? And how did you manage, all right, to actually solve certain things that were in front of you in those type of situations? All right. If you remember, I had a video about the thought process behind interview questions. All right. And one of them was to think about your major experiences. All right. That matches the question that the interviewer is asking. So I am saying, you need to think about examples where you have been involved in. All right. And if you don't have experience or those type of examples, it's always good to say, okay, I don't have an experience in this, but if I were to encounter this type of situation, I would handle it like this. It's different. It's showing proactiveness. It's different when someone says, I don't know, because obviously I've never been involved in this type of situation, right? Show initiativeness. If you have never been involved in it, tell them how you can resolve it, all right? Probably theoretically, okay, or because of something that you've observed, okay? Very, very important. So this video is for everyone, whether you've had experience or you don't have. Very, very important. Number three, develop a story for each competence. Ladies and gentlemen, stories, they are powerful. Stories they actually say a lot in terms of who you are a person. So if you're talking about stories, that's where the STAR technique and the CAL technique comes into play. All right. I know that if you're saying behavioral questions, like I said, all of you say, okay, STAR technique, CAL technique, but they are there for you to create a compelling, a powerful story. But your story should be aligned. Your story should respond to the type of competencies that the panel is looking for, to the type of competencies that has been put up in the job description. So develop a story using the STAR technique. What was the situation? What was the task? What action did you take? And what was the result? Obviously, we're talking about results. What did you learn? So now develop your story around that using the CAL or the STAR technique. But what is very, very important is that align that to the job description. Simple, straightforward, and before you know it, the job is yours. Right. Then last point, you need to pick up the right story for the right question. I know that with all the experience that you have, you've been involved in a lot of situations, of course, that you have actually dealt with, convincingly, and you got results. But what is important is pick the right stories. Don't talk about the stories that do not answer what you're looking for. Okay, because we want to know that, okay, these type of competencies, they belong to someone who's in project management, all right? And we want to have you to respond along those lines. So if you respond in terms of something that is off to what we're looking for, we are saying, should you hire this person? Nah, because maybe the situation that we want him or her to solve in real life, he or she has never been involved in. So it is important that you align your story, you pick the right story with the right competence. I think it's very, very clear. So this is the strategy that you can use to answer behavioral questions. So whenever you hear they say, tell us about a time when, remember this video. All right. So I think that is it from me today. Thank you very much for watching. And as always, God bless you.